I'm Jenna Price. I'm 30 years old. And last week, my mother called me crying. It was the first time in my entire life I had ever heard her break like that. 2 years ago, I was the one crying, shaking, barely able to breathe. I had just been diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, and my mother said one sentence I will never forget. 6 months of chemotherapy, 36 hospital visits. Not a single time did my family show up. They were too busy planning my brother's wedding. And now, she needs me. And my answer. Exactly 4 words. Before I tell you everything, take a moment to subscribe. But only if you believe that sometimes the people we expect to love us the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. I'd also love to know where you're listening from, and what the temperature feels like where you are right now. I read every single comment. The next part of this story includes fictional elements, shaped with the support of AI to deepen the emotional and educational experience. I hope you'll stay with me and feel every moment of it. Now let me take you back. 2 years ago, the day everything changed. I was working as a senior graphic designer at a mid-sized agency in Chicago. The kind of office with exposed brick walls, overpriced coffee machines, and plants that somehow looked healthier than the people taking care of them. I loved my job. I was good at it. I had worked my way up from intern to senior designer in 5 years. No connections, no shortcuts, no help. My apartment was a small 1-bedroom in Lincoln Park. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I had a monstera plant by the window I'd somehow kept alive for 3 years. That alone felt like an achievement. My life was stable, predictable. Coffee at 6:30, gym 3 times a week, dinner with my best friend, Lily Chen, every Thursday. That Wednesday started like any other. I was deep into a campaign for a fintech client with an impossible deadline. Slack notifications were exploding. My inbox was a mess. My brain was locked into that hyper-focused creative state. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. I should have. But something made me pick up. Miss Price. This is Dr. Morgan's office. We have your biopsy results. I remember everything in that moment. The taste of my coffee lukewarm. Forgotten. The way the sunlight hit the glass wall of the meeting room. The sound of my own heartbeat in my ears. And one thought. Biopsy results don't come with that tone. The results are back. The nurse continued. Dr. Morgan would like to see you tomorrow morning. Can you come in at 8 o'clock? My coffee sat untouched for the rest of the day. Dinner that night I couldn't taste a thing, because deep down, I already knew. The next morning. Dr. Morgan didn't waste time. Stage 3 breast cancer, she said gently. Aggressive. We need to start treatment immediately. I sat there in that sterile office white walls, framed degrees, fake plants pretending to be alive, and I felt like I had left my body, like I was watching someone else sit in that chair, a woman in her late 20s, still in her work blazer, hearing a diagnosis that didn't belong to her life. Jenna. I blinked. Sorry. I'm here. I whispered. Do you have someone who can drive you home? I thought about calling Lily, but it was barely 9 a.m. She was probably in surgery rounds. My coworkers. We weren't close. And without thinking, I said the one thing that had been wired into me since childhood. I'll call my mom. Here's what you need to understand about my family. My mother, Elaine Price, wasn't loud. She wasn't cruel in obvious ways. But her approval was everything. And her silence. That was worse than anything she could have said. When I was growing up, we didn't argue with our parents. We didn't question them. We adapted. We learned early that love in our house wasn't unconditional. it was selective. And even after everything, after years of feeling like I came second to someone who barely tried, I still reached for them in that moment. Because that's what daughters do. Right. When everything falls apart, you call home. I stepped out of the oncology office, found a quiet bench in the hallway, and pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking so badly it took me 3 tries to tap my mother's contact. She picked up on the second ring. "Jenna, I'm in the middle of something. Can this wait?" I should explain something first. The Price family didn't operate like most families. There was a clear center. And then, there was everything else. My younger brother, Ethan Price, was the center. Golden child. Future heir. The one everything revolved around. He was 2 years younger than me. But you'd never guess it by the way our parents treated us. Ethan got everything. Private school. A fully paid college education at Northwestern University. A car on his 18th birthday. I got told that being independent was better for me, which apparently meant student loans, part-time jobs, figuring everything out alone. When Ethan landed his first job, my parents hosted a dinner party. When I got promoted to senior designer, my mom sent me a single text. "Proud of you." That was it. Ethan had just gotten engaged to Sophie Walker. She was nice, polite, always perfectly put together, and suddenly, their wedding became the only thing that existed in our family's universe. It was set for October, 4 months away, and it consumed everything. Every conversation, every dinner, every phone call. My mother had a wedding board with hundreds of saved ideas, flowers, table settings, invitations, dresses. It was like the entire world had narrowed down to one single day. "Mom," I said into the phone, my voice breaking. "I just came from the doctor." There was a pause. "I have cancer." Another pause. Stage 3. Silence. I could hear faint movement on the other end. Voices. My father asking something in the background. "Mom," I whispered. "Did you hear me?" More silence. Then finally, "We'll need to talk about this later," she said. But she didn't sound shocked. She didn't sound worried. She sounded distracted. That was around the time I started taking screenshots of everything. At first, I told myself it was because chemo could affect memory, because I didn't want to forget important details. But deep down, I think I already knew. I would need proof one day. "Mom," I said again. Slower this time. "I have cancer. The doctor said it's aggressive. I need to start chemotherapy immediately. I'm really scared." The words came out uneven. My vision blurred with tears. A nurse passed by, glancing at me with quiet sympathy. I turned toward the wall, pressing the phone tighter against my ear, waiting for her to say something that would make this feel less terrifying. "Come home. We'll figure it out. You're not alone." Anything. Instead, there was silence. 5 seconds. 10. Then she exhaled. "Jenna, listen." Her voice shifted. "Your brother's wedding is in 4 months. There's so much to organize. We really can't handle something like this right now." I stopped breathing. We can't take this on." She continued. "You've always been strong. You've always handled things on your own." Her tone hardened slightly. "You'll figure it out. I have to go," she said. "Ethan and Sophie are coming over to finalize the venue deposit." And just like that, the line went dead. I stayed there on that bench for 45 minutes. People walked past me, doctors, nurses, patients holding hands with their families. No one stopped. I was just another person in a hospital hallway, having the kind of day that splits your life into before and after. I wanted to call her back. I wanted to scream into the phone. Your daughter might be dying. I wanted to say. A wedding is one day. Cancer is every single day for however long I have left. But I didn't. I didn't say anything. Instead, I opened my phone, took a screenshot of the call log. 8:47 a.m. Duration 2 minutes, 31 seconds. And I saved it into a folder. I named it Family. That was the last time I called my mother for 2 years. The first day of chemotherapy. I drove myself to the hospital. The infusion center was on the 4th floor, a wide, quiet room filled with reclining chairs arranged in a semicircle. Each chair had an IV stand beside it and a small screen mounted nearby. It looked like someone had tried to design comfort without ever truly understanding pain. I checked in, signed the forms. They assigned me to chair 7. The nurse, a gentle woman named Marissa, adjusted my IV line and prepared the medication. She wore reading glasses on a thin chain and spoke in a soft, practiced tone. First time she asked. I nodded. It's okay to be nervous, she said kindly. Most people bring someone with them. I looked around the room. She was right. In chair 3. A woman leaned into her husband while he held her hand, whispering something that made her smile through the exhaustion. In chair 5. A teenage boy sat wrapped in a blanket while his mother read to him from a worn paperback. In chair 9. An elderly man sipped soup his daughter had brought in a thermos. And in chair 7. There was just me. No one beside me. No one waiting for me. Just me and the quiet hum of machines. I picked up my phone and texted my mother. Starting chemo today. I'm scared. She replied 6 hours later. By then, I was already home, curled up on my bathroom floor, shaking, nauseous in a way I hadn't known was possible. Her message read, "Hang in there. Sweetie, I'm at the florist with Sophie picking centerpieces, peonies or roses. What do you think? I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I took a screenshot, added it to the folder, and typed back. Roses are nice. I didn't tell her I had spent the last hour throwing up until there was nothing left. I didn't tell her I had to pull over twice on the way home because my vision blurred so badly I couldn't see the road. I didn't tell her anything real. What was the point? I met Dr. Hannah Brooks during my 3rd chemo session. She was a nurse practitioner who ran a support group for cancer patients, the kind of program hospitals offer when they want to say they care about more than just the treatment. I had ignored the flyers for weeks, until she approached me directly. You're always alone, she said, sitting down in the empty chair next to mine. She had dark brown hair tied back neatly and eyes that didn't look away when you met them, the kind of eyes that made it hard to lie. I'm fine, I said automatically. I didn't ask if you were fine, she replied, a small, knowing smile forming. I asked why you're always alone. Big difference. I should have brushed her off. Said something polite, distant, the way I had learned to handle conversations I didn't want. But I was 3 rounds into chemo. My hair was starting to thin, and I hadn't had a real conversation with anyone in weeks. My family is busy, I said. Then after a pause, quieter. My brother's wedding. Her expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Not surprise, something closer to understanding. When's the wedding? She asked. October. And your last chemo session, November. She nodded slowly. You know, doctor, Hannah said gently. We keep visitor logs here. I looked at her, confused. Every patient, every visit. Who came? And when? She continued. It's mostly for security, but some people request copies later. For their records. For their memories. I didn't understand why she was telling me that. Not then. But I remembered it. And 3 days later, I requested my first copy. Ethan's wedding was set for October 15th. By then, I was in between chemo cycles, that strange in-between phase where the nausea had eased just enough to feel human again. But the exhaustion still lingered under the surface. I hadn't planned on going. No one had asked me to be part of the ceremony. Not a bridesmaid, not even a reading. But a small part of me thought, maybe I could just show up, sit quietly in the back, see my family. Then my father called. It was rare enough that I almost didn't recognize the number at first. "Jenna, about the wedding." He began. Something inside me lit up. Hope. Stupid. Fragile. Persistent hope. "Your mother and I have been talking." He continued. I held my breath. "We think it's best if you don't attend." The hope disappeared instantly. "You understand," he added. Like he was explaining something simple. "You don't look well. You've lost weight. Your hair." He trailed off for a second. "It's Ethan's special day. We don't want anything to overshadow it." Anything. Meaning me. Overshadow meaning remind people that their daughter was fighting for her life while they celebrated flowers and table settings. "I understand," I said. And I did. I understood exactly what kind of family I had. The wedding happened without me. I saw it through photos online. My mother smiling in silk. My father standing proud in his tailored suit. Ethan and Sophie glowing, surrounded by people who had no idea I existed. The caption read, "The happiest day of our family's life." I took a screenshot, added it to the folder. Then I closed the app and didn't open it again for 6 months. Some things you don't need to see twice. 3 weeks after the wedding, the medical bills started arriving. My insurance covered a lot, but a lot isn't everything. After deductibles, copays, and medications they refused to fully cover, the total came to $47,000. $47,000. I didn't have that kind of money. I sold my car, canceled every subscription, cut down everything that wasn't absolutely necessary, and when it still wasn't enough, I did the one thing I had promised myself I wouldn't do. I reached out to my father. "Dad, I'm in trouble. The medical bills are more than I can handle. Could I borrow some money? I'll pay you back." I stared at the message for 20 minutes before sending it. My finger hovered over the screen like it was something dangerous. But desperation makes you forget your pride. His reply came 2 hours later. "Your mother and I just finished paying for Ethan's wedding. We don't have extra right now. Have you looked into a personal loan? Your credit should be good enough." I read it once, then again, and again, waiting for something else. An apology, a hesitation, anything. Nothing came. $47,000. That was the cost of staying alive. And my family. The same family that had spent nearly $80,000 on a wedding. Couldn't spare a single dollar for me. I took a screenshot, added it to the folder. Then I applied for a personal loan with a 14% interest rate. Because what choice did I have? I would be paying it off for years. But, at least, I would still be here to pay it. Have you ever been in a moment like this? Where the people you needed the most simply weren't there? Where you had to fight your hardest battles completely alone? If you have, type 1 in the comments. I want to know I'm not the only one. At least, that's what I told myself. The worst night came after my 4th round of chemo. My doctor had warned me. Each round would get harder. The effects would build. But no one prepares you for what that actually feels like. For lying on your bathroom floor at 2 a.m., shaking so violently your teeth won't stop chattering, while your own body feels like it's trying to reject itself. That was the night I lost my hair. Not slowly, not over time, all at once. I woke up and my pillow was covered in blonde strands, the same hair I'd had my entire life, The same hair my mother used to braid when I was little. I dragged myself to the bathroom and threw up until there was nothing left. And then I kept throwing up anyway. At 2:47 a.m., I called my mother. The phone rang. And rang. 8 times before it went to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. At 3:15, I stopped calling, and I texted Dr. Hannah instead. I think I need help. She showed up 40 minutes later, still in scrubs from a late shift. She didn't ask questions, didn't make it awkward. She just sat on the bathroom floor next to me, held what was left of my hair back, and stayed until the sun came up. My mother called me back at 10:23 a.m. Sweetie, you called last night. I had my phone on silent. Sophie and I were at the spa. Post-wedding stress. You know how it is. A small pause. What did you need? I looked at Hannah, standing in my kitchen, quietly making me tea like it was the most natural thing in the world. Then I looked at myself in the mirror, at the uneven patches where my hair used to be. Nothing. Mom, I said. It was nothing. Oh, good. She replied lightly. Call anytime. Love you. She hung up before I could say anything else. I took a screenshot of the call log, and in that moment, I finally understood what family meant. If you've ever been abandoned by the people who were supposed to love you the most, if you're listening to this, and something inside you is tightening right now, just know you're not alone. And if you're wondering what happened when my mother finally needed me, stay with me, because what comes next, you won't expect. But before that, I need to tell you how I survived. 2 years later, I was cancer-free. The day Dr. Morgan looked at me and said, "No evidence of disease," something inside me finally let go. I walked out of that hospital and cried in the parking garage for nearly an hour. Not from sadness, not even from happiness. Just release. 2 years of holding my breath. And finally, I could breathe again. A lot had changed. I had been promoted to art director. Turns out when you stare death in the face, everything else becomes very clear. My boss, Daniel Reed, had kept my position open the entire time, let me work remotely when I could. Never once made me feel like a burden. When I thanked him, he just said, "You're talented. Talent is worth waiting for." I moved too. Sold my old apartment in Lincoln Park and bought a small condo in River North. Nothing huge, but it had a window overlooking the city and enough light for my Monstera plant, which somehow survived everything I did. I bought myself a navy cashmere scarf to celebrate 1 year in remission. It was the most expensive thing I owned. That wasn't a medical bill. Dr. Hannah and I were still close, closer than ever. We still had dinner every Thursday, but somewhere along the way, she stopped feeling like a friend and started feeling like family, the kind I had always needed. As for my actual family, I hadn't seen them in 2 years. We exchanged the bare minimum: a happy birthday, a happy new year. Nothing real, nothing that mattered. I had made peace with it, or something close to peace. I had a life now, a good one I built myself. And then, one Thursday evening, while I was cooking dinner, my phone lit up, a name I hadn't seen in years. Mom. I stared at it. The pan sizzled. The room felt suddenly smaller. The phone kept ringing, and for a moment, I almost let it go to voicemail, but something stopped me. Maybe curiosity. Maybe the part of me that still wanted to believe. So I answered. "Hello, Jenna." My mother's voice sounded different, thinner, unsteady. I had never heard her sound uncertain before. "I need to see you." Not "how are you?" Not "it's been a while." Not even "I'm sorry." I need you. What's going on? I asked. There was a pause. In the background, I could hear movement. My father's voice. Faint. Asking something I couldn't make out. Then she spoke again. I've been diagnosed with something. Another pause. Parkinson's disease. I stood there in my kitchen, phone pressed to my ear, waiting. The salmon in the pan started to burn. I didn't move. It's early stage, she continued quietly, but she didn't finish the sentence. I need my family around me right now. Family. The word felt strange coming from her. There's a dinner this Sunday, she said. At the house. Your father. Ethan. Sophie. I want you there. We need to talk about the future. The future. As if I hadn't spent the last 2 years building one without them. Okay. I heard myself say, I'll be there. After I hung up, something hit me. In that entire conversation, she never asked how I was. She didn't ask if I was healthy. Didn't even know if I had survived. The next 2 days were strange. A mix of dread and something darker. Curiosity. Parkinson's disease. Of course. I looked it up. That's what I do now. I research everything. Early stage Parkinson's isn't immediate. It's slow. A gradual loss of control. Tremors. Stiffness. Eventually, dependence. It requires patience, time, and someone willing to put their life on hold. And suddenly, I understood. She didn't call because she missed me. She didn't call because she regretted what she had done. She called because she needed something. And I was the obvious choice. The daughter without a husband, without children, without anything that would make it inconvenient to sacrifice. That night, I called Hannah. You're going, she asked carefully. I need to know what they want. I said, and I need them to look me in the eye when they ask for it. Jenna, I'm not going to let them manipulate me, I added quickly. Not anymore. I reached for the cashmere scarf hanging by my door. A small, quiet reminder of everything I had survived. But I need to face them, I said. Does that make sense? There was a pause on the other end. Then she said softly, You know that folder you've been keeping? The screenshots, the hospital records. Yeah, bring it. I could hear the care in her voice. Not to use, she added, but to remind yourself of the truth, in case they try to rewrite it. That night, I opened the folder again. For the first time in months, I sat on my bed, scrolling through 2 years of evidence, text messages, call logs, hospital records, my name at the top of each page, and next to it, an empty column, visitors, none, over and over again. It was all there, my entire history with them, documented. Sunday came too fast. I got dressed carefully, not to impress, to protect myself. Black slacks, a cream silk blouse, the cashmere scarf resting lightly over my shoulders. I looked composed, healthy, like someone who had built a life without them. Hannah texted me before I left. Remember, you don't owe them anything, not a single thing. The drive took about 40 minutes. Every mile felt heavier than the last. And when I finally pulled up, the house looked exactly the same. White exterior, black shutters, perfectly trimmed lawn that didn't look real. Nothing had changed. Except me. I grew up in that house, but I never truly belonged to it. It was the place where I learned love had conditions. I sat in my car for a few minutes, watching the light spill from the dining room windows. Shadows moved inside. Everything looked warm. Perfect. My phone buzzed. Hannah, you've got this. You survived cancer. You can survive dinner. She was right. I grabbed my purse and walked to the door. The bell rang the same 3 notes I'd heard my entire life. My mother opened it. Her expression shifted too quickly to read. "Jenna," she said, pulling me into a hug. The same familiar perfume, the same distance behind it. "You look wonderful. Come in." Inside. Nothing had changed. The long table, the chandelier, the carefully arranged photos on the wall. I noticed something I hadn't before. The photos stopped at me, around 18. After that, it was all Ethan. Graduation, engagement, wedding. I stayed frozen in the past. Jenna. Ethan stood up, smiling like nothing had ever happened. He hugged me. I returned it. Stiffly, behind him. Sophie sat quietly, one hand resting on her stomach. Pregnant. Of course. The next chapter of the same story. "You look great," Ethan said. I nodded. Then I saw my father. He sat at the head of the table. Smaller than I remembered. Older. His hand trembled slightly against the tablecloth, and in his eyes, something new. Fear. "Sit down," he said. I took the seat across from Ethan, placing my purse beside me. My phone was inside. Everything was inside. Dinner was served. The same dishes. The same routine. But the silence felt heavier than anything I had carried before, when the plates were cleared. My father pushed himself up slowly, gripping the edge of the table. "I'll be direct," he said. "You all know about my diagnosis." He paused, steadying himself. "Parkinson's. Early stage." His voice tightened. "But it's going to get worse. The doctors say I'll need help. Long term." He let the words sit in the air. My mother stared at her hands. Ethan shifted. Sophie stayed quiet. "We've discussed this as a family," he continued. I almost laughed. When had that discussion happened? Without me? "We believe the best solution is for someone to move back home and take care of me." His eyes landed on me. "Jenna, you're the obvious choice." Obvious. The word hit harder than anything else. Not best. Not willing. Just available. "You work from home," he added. "You don't have a family of your own. My old room is ready. It's time you come back and contribute." Contribute. Like I hadn't been fighting to survive while they ignored me. Ethan nodded, avoiding my eyes. "It makes sense." He said, "I've got the baby coming. Work. You understand?" Of course. He had responsibilities. Mine just didn't count. My mother spoke softly. "You have a duty to this family. Your father needs you." Ethan leaned back. "I can't be everywhere. Sophie needs me." Not that he wanted to help, just that it was convenient not to. Sophie remained silent, but she watched me closely, like she already knew how this would end. "Think about what you're asking," I said quietly. My father's voice hardened. "We're not asking." A pause. "We're telling you. You're the daughter. This is what daughters do." The words settled heavily. I felt it. That old pressure. To agree, to shrink, to give in. But that version of me, she didn't exist anymore. She had been left behind 2 years ago, before I answer. I said, "Steady now. I want to ask you something." My father looked surprised. I met his eyes. "When was the last time you asked how I was?" Silence. "When was the last time?" I continued. "You even checked if I was still alive." The silence stretched longer than it should have. My mother's smile froze. Ethan stared down at his glass. Sophie leaned back slightly, like she didn't want to be part of what was coming. "What are you talking about?" my father asked. But his voice had softened. "I'm asking something simple," I said. "You say I owe this family, but when I was sick, where were you, Jenna?" That's not my mother started. No. I want an answer. My voice stayed calm. I had learned how to do that. Do you even know if I'm in remission? I continued. Do you know anything about my health silence again? Sharper this time. You're sitting here, I said. And you think I'm fine. Am I wrong? My father frowned. What do you mean? You had cancer. I had stage 3 cancer. I let it sink in. 6 months of chemo. I lost my hair. I lost weight. I paid $47,000 on my own, because you wouldn't help. He said nothing. For the first time in my life, he had no response. I reached into my purse. Steady now. I'm cancer-free. I said, 2 years. I held his gaze. But you didn't know that. Did you? Because you never asked. My mother started crying quietly. That's not fair, she whispered. We were dealing with the wedding. The wedding. I repeated. I nodded slowly. The one you spent $80,000 on. I looked at her. But my treatment wasn't worth one visit. Not one. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. Jenna, we didn't know it was that serious. I called Dad the day I was diagnosed. I said. I looked straight at him. I told you I had stage 3 cancer. I was crying. My voice stayed even. And you said, we can't deal with this right now. Your brother is planning his wedding. I didn't, he started. Yes. I said quietly. You did. I unlocked my phone and placed it on the table. Do you want to see it? I asked. The messages where you said you couldn't help because of the wedding, or the calls Mom ignored at 2 a.m. when I couldn't even stand, I scrolled. Or this. The hospital log appeared. Rows of dates, times, and one column repeating the same word. None. 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 36 chemo sessions. I said quietly, 0 visitors. No one spoke. Sophie's hand dropped from her stomach. She stared at the screen. Then at Ethan. Something in her expression changed. My mother reached out, then stopped. I slid the phone closer. You can look. I'm not hiding anything. She picked it up first. Her hands trembled as she scrolled, page after page. My name at the top. Visitors. None. I don't understand, she whispered. Why didn't you tell us I did? I showed the screenshots. My chemo schedule. Your reply about flowers. My request for help. Dad telling me to get a loan. I looked at her. I called you 23 times. You answered twice. Ethan took the phone, scrolling faster now. His face went pale. This can't be right. It is. I took a breath. Every message is time-stamped. Every record is official. I met his eyes. This isn't my version. This is what happened. I looked at my father. He hadn't moved. His hand pressed flat against the table, like he needed something to hold him up. I don't need an apology, I said. I just need you to remember this. When you ask me what I'm going to do next. My voice stayed steady. When people fail you like that, you learn to protect yourself. You keep proof. Because feelings can be denied. But this. I nodded at the phone. Can't. The silence that followed felt heavier than anything before it. My mother started crying. Not softly this time. Not carefully. Just. Real. Her mascara ran down her cheeks in dark streaks. I didn't know, she kept saying. Jenna. I didn't know. You knew, I said quietly. You just chose not to see. Ethan was still holding my phone, scrolling like he could find something to prove this wasn't real. He wouldn't. My father finally spoke. This is. the past. His voice was rough now. What's done is done. What matters is now. I'm sick. Jenna, I need help. We need to move forward. I almost laughed. Forward, I repeated. You want to move forward? Yes. Whatever happened before. He waved his trembling hand like my cancer had been an inconvenience. I need a caregiver. You're my daughter. Sophie spoke for the first time, her voice calm. Did you know about any of this? The hospital visits. The money she asked for. My father didn't answer. He knew. Ethan said quietly, staring at the screen. My father's composure cracked. The wedding. The timing. There were considerations. Considerations, I repeated. I stood up slowly, smoothing my blouse. My mother reached for me. Please, Jenna, don't do this. We're family. Family. I let the word sit between us. Let me tell you what that means. I said. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Family shows up. Family answers the phone at 2 a.m. Family helps when you're drowning in medical bills instead of spending $80,000 on a party. Family visits their daughter in the hospital. At least once. My mother broke down. Ethan looked at the floor. I spent 6 months fighting to stay alive. I continued. 6 months of chemo, of pain, of fear. I looked at each of them. And where were you? My voice stayed steady. Planning a wedding. Tasting cakes. Choosing flowers. Jenna, my father started. No. The word cut through the room. You don't get to say my name like that anymore. My voice was calm, but firm. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not the daughter you ignore until you need something. I picked up my purse, adjusting my scarf. You have a son, I said, looking at him. The one you spent $80,000 on? Why don't you ask him to take care of you? Ethan's head lifted. I can't, he said quickly. I have responsibilities. So did I. I met his eyes. I had a job, a life, cancer. And I handled all of it alone, because you were all too busy. I turned and walked toward the door. My heels echoed against the floor. Then I heard it. Jenna, please. I stopped. Slowly. I turned back. My father was crying. I had never seen that in my entire life. Not once. But now. His face was breaking, his hands shaking as he tried to wipe the tears away. I'm sorry, he said, his voice unsteady. I know I was wrong, but I'm scared. I don't know what's coming. I need you. Please. For a moment. Just one moment. I felt it again. That old pull. That need to be seen. To be enough. The little girl who spent her whole life trying to earn his approval. But she wasn't here anymore. She had been left behind in a hospital room. I took a step closer. Dad, I said quietly. I hear you. I understand that you're scared, but you need to hear this. I held his gaze. 2 years ago. I called you. I was crying. I told you I had cancer. I told you I was terrified. He said nothing. He didn't need to. You told me. My voice stayed steady. We can't deal with this right now. So here's my answer, Dad. I smiled, not angry, not bitter, just calm. I can't deal with this right now. 4 words. The same 4 words he gave me. My mother gasped. Ethan froze. My father just stared at me, tears still falling as it sank in. I turned and walked out. Not fast, not dramatic. Just done. I walked past the photos that never included me, past the polished table, the perfect house, the illusion. Jenna. Wait. Ethan called. I didn't stop. I stepped outside. The air felt different, lighter. Behind me. The door opened. My mother's voice followed. Please, don't do this. We're your family. We love you. I paused at my car, turned back. Family doesn't leave you alone to die, I said softly. And love isn't something you give only when you need something. Her face broke. For a second. I felt something. Not guilt, just grief. For what we could have been. Goodbye, Mom. I got in the car and drove away. I didn't look back. Not once. The road was clear, and for the first time in my life, I could breathe. I was free. A week later, my mother called again. I answered, not because I had to, just curiosity. Her voice sounded older. I wanted to tell you what's happening here, she said. I listened. Ethan had to take time off work. Your father's condition is getting worse. He needs help every day now. I said nothing. Ethan's doing it. She added, they can't afford a full-time caregiver. And your father refuses a nursing home. A pause. He missed an important project. His boss isn't happy. He might lose his promotion. I thought about Ethan, the golden child, the one who never had to sacrifice anything. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and I meant it. Not for him, for the situation. Megan is struggling. My mother continued. They argue a lot. Another pause. She said, she's starting to understand why you left. I let that sit. Thanks for telling me. Mom, will you come back? She asked quietly. No, I said. But I hope Ethan figures it out. I ended the call. 3 weeks later, she texted me, a long message, different from anything she had ever sent. I owe you a real apology. I should have protected you. I should have been there. I wasn't. And I have to live with that. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just need you to know. I see it now. I'm sorry. I read it 3 times. This was new. My mother had never taken responsibility for anything before, but now she did. I didn't reply right away. I sat with that message for 2 days, turning it over in my mind. On the 3rd day, I replied, I appreciate you saying that. I'm not ready to talk yet, but I hear you. She answered almost immediately, that's okay. Whenever you're ready, or never. Whatever you need. Whatever you need. 4 words. So different from the ones I had been given before. That Thursday, I showed the messages to Hannah over dinner. She read them quietly, then looked at me. How do you feel? I don't know. I admitted. Maybe. A little hopeful, but careful. That's healthy, she said, squeezing my hand. You don't owe her forgiveness, but you can accept an apology. I know, I said. I'm learning. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. Handwritten, uneven. My name on the envelope. Carefully written. Jenna Price. I didn't open it right away. I carried it with me for days until Hannah finally said, just read it. The waiting is worse. She was right. I opened it one evening, sitting alone with a glass of wine. Jenna, I'm not good at this. Admitting I was wrong. Your mother says it's pride. She's right. I failed you. Not because I didn't know better, but because I chose your brother's happiness over your survival. I will carry that for the rest of my life. I'm not asking you to come back. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just need you to know I see it now. I see what I did. I see the daughter I lost, and the woman she became without me. You are stronger than I ever was. I didn't lose you because of this illness. I lost you because I wasn't the parent you needed. I'm sorry. It's not enough. But it's all I have. Dad. The handwriting shook across the page. I folded the letter and put it away. I didn't respond, but I didn't throw it out either. The next day, Hannah came over. I showed her the letter. She read it slowly, then looked up. How do you feel I thought about it? Sad. Maybe. For him. For what he's losing. For what we could have had. I paused. but not guilty. I held my glass, thinking, I used to feel guilty for everything. I said, for not being enough, for not trying harder. Hannah waited, but I learned something. I continued, that some people will never love you the way you need, no matter what you do. And that's not your failure, it's theirs. She smiled softly. That's wisdom. She said, I learned it the hard way. I replied. I took a breath. I'm not rushing forgiveness. Maybe one day, maybe not, but I'm not going to force it, just because he's sick. Hannah nodded. And if things get worse, she asked gently. I'll deal with it then, I said. But I won't destroy myself to save someone else. I glanced at the letter on the table. That's my boundary, and I'm allowed to have it. You are? Hannah said. 6 months later, I was still cancer-free. Doctor. Morgan used the word thriving at my last checkup. I almost didn't believe her. I had spent so long bracing for impact. I forgot what it felt like to actually live. But maybe she was right. I had been promoted again, creative director now, with an office overlooking downtown Chicago. My Monstera plant came with me. It was doing better too. I hired 2 junior designers and realized I loved helping people grow, guiding them through things I once had to face alone. I was seeing someone. His name was Daniel, a high school teacher with kind eyes and a terrible sense of humor. He knew everything. My illness, my family, my past. He didn't try to fix me. He just stayed, consistently, quietly, the way real love works. Hannah and I still had dinner every Thursday. She was dating too now, someone from her hospital. We were building something real, a family we chose. My mother still texted sometimes. Simple messages. Thinking of you. Hope you're well. I replied occasionally. Not always. We weren't close. But maybe we were something. My father's condition got worse. He finally agreed to a part-time caregiver. Ethan visited when he had to. Duty. Not love. And maybe for some families, that's all there is. I hadn't seen them again, and I was okay with that. If you're listening right now, I want to talk to you for a moment. Maybe you've been where I was, alone, scared, waiting for someone who never came. Maybe you've wondered if it was your fault, if you were better, stronger, easier. They would have loved you more. I believed that for years, until I learned the truth. Some people will never show up, no matter what you do, and that says nothing about your worth. It says everything about them. You are allowed to protect yourself. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to build a life with people who actually care. Forgiveness is not something you owe anyone. You don't have to heal on anyone else's timeline. Those 4 words I said, I can't deal with this right now. They weren't revenge. They were truth. Sometimes. The truth is the only thing strong enough to set you free. Right now. I'm sitting in my favorite coffee shop. It's Thursday. Hannah will be here soon. My phone is in my pocket. The folder is still there. All the proof. I don't open it anymore, but I keep it, just in case. Outside, the city moves like it always does, and for the first time, I'm part of it. There was a time I believed love had to be earned, that if I tried harder, gave more, stayed quieter, I would finally be enough for the people who mattered most. But life forced me to face something uncomfortable sometimes. The lesson isn't how to be loved. It's how to walk away when you're not. That realization didn't make me cold. It made me honest. Honest about my limits, my worth, and the kind of life I deserve. If you were in my place, standing between guilt and self-respect, what would you choose? Would you go back? Or would you protect the version of yourself that fought so hard to survive if you've listened until this moment? I want to thank you truly. It means more than you think. And maybe, just by being here, you're already helping someone else feel less alone. If this story touched you even a little, consider subscribing, liking, or sharing. Not for me, but because your action might be the reason someone out there finds the courage to set a boundary, to choose themselves, to start again.